This is day 2 of the limited championship event at SorceryCon 2026 in Indianapolis. On day 2, the top 64 were broken into 8-man or 8-person draft pods, and then had to draft an entirely new limited deck. So this is pack 1, pick 1, in my pod, and as you can see, it's kind of slim pickings here. There's not a ton of what I would consider like very, very good top picks in this pack. The elite is somewhat of a dud. The hyena is really situational. Feign death, yeah, not that great. There's a couple just vanilla 3s in there. There's a weathered trunks, but honestly, I think like the Dreadwing is probably top of the pile there, or one of those sites that we saw, the desert mausoleum. Both okay sites, just not things you typically want to have to pick as a pack 1 pick 1 or a pick 1, 2 or 3 in your packs. But it looks like I'm going to have to go with the Dreadwing, just based on the quality of cards in that pack. And it is worth noting that for this event they were doing a zone, what is called a zone drafting, which basically means that you can only have one pile of cards kind of like waiting to the left or right of you at any given time. So it just prevents people from like queuing up draft piles of cards and then creating just a more cluttered and confusing state on the table. Getting past this pack here, Cage of Sidrak still in there, Toolbox is still in there, which are decent or interesting cards, I should say. And then not a lot of like must have minions or spells in this selection. It is really tempting to take the Cage, just because there are a lot of instances. I think there's a greater chance of instances in limited where you're going to be up against decks where they are running minions with 2 or less power in there at a higher rate, just because that's what you can get sometimes in your packs. Those are the playables. I end up taking the Cage. I think I was also considering the Toolbox. The Toolbox might have been a safer bet, just because like you're more guaranteed to have some good options in your collection, especially if you draft for them, to be able to make use of that and get that utility. I'm looking at playable minions here. I think the best one is the Crawl. Is it Crawl Morlocks? I think I end up taking that one. It's just a 3-drop for 3, and then it has some keywords on it, some abilities. Burrowing Voidwalk. Noxious Corpse also pretty good. Just the Sarco Scorpions of the Gothic set. 2 power minion with lethal. Lethal, surprisingly, always pretty decent in a limited format. Getting past a lot of removal options and fire here, and then the strength of the remainder of the pack here, not that great. So it's a choice between Trial by Fire and Begone. I think I take Begone. Begone a little higher than Trial by Fire, just because, especially in a Gothic only limited format, the chances that you're going to be able to just banish anything off of the board from anywhere is so high, and surprisingly relevant to be able to banish certain cards. If they have an ability to do like some weird recursion tricks, like Hexam Haunt, or maybe like a zombie bruiser, something that is just going to keep coming back and ruining your day. Gift to the Wolf at the top of the pack here. I think I'm almost positive I take the Gift to the Wolf just immediately. It is it's an excellent card. It's basically removal, and you get to draw a card, so it's card neutral. You get to draw a card from it, and like I said, in almost every case, it is going to be removal for you. It is conditional. You have to have the minion on the table already. But again, like looking at the rest of that pack, it was hardly a contest in terms of what to take there. So at this point in the draft, I'm leaning pretty heavy into earth and fire. So I'm just keeping that in the back of my mind here. And I see a fertile earth show up. I believe I take the fertile earth, even though there's a wild fanatic there, which is also a decent card, I would call it like a playable 2. But I take the fertile earth because I have at least 2 earth cards already, and they're 2 earth threshold. So the Morlocks and the Gift of the Wolf. And if I am going to stay in earth or end up being in like multiple colors, it is very nice to have those double threshold sites to help you with your thresholds. Just getting past like dust in these packs here. Entombed, not a strong minion in the format in my opinion. It's just a little too slow. It's like slower than you want it to be. And there were a couple other cards there that were like borderline playable, I think, but I just ended up not grabbing. I think they just ended up grabbing a site, right? I think what I grabbed was a bloom, just to leave myself open to make it easier on myself, in case I needed to pivot to different elements, or in case I needed to run like 2 and then splash for a 3rd, something like that. And now we're back to my original pack. I think pack 1. The Hemogoblin is still in there, and the strength of this pack still where we left it, pretty weak. I think I ended up taking the Hemogoblin just because I wanted to start filling out that minion curve. Same thing here. I think I end up taking this Hellhound just as a vanilla 3, just to continue to fill out the minion curve. Your limited decks are going to be like it's make it or break it based on kind of the quality of your minions for the most part, and so you have to like kind of like manage that throughout the drafting process. You can run a risk of like having too much on your high end, or not enough on your high end, or like getting your ratios a little bit off, like having more 4s, more 2-drop minions than you want, than 3 drops, things like that. We're getting to the bottom of the pile here. I mean, I just take it was a Sarava Townsfolk just because I'm looking for playables. I might take the Hexam the Hauntless Head, or the Vandal Imp would have also been an okay choice, I think, just for some possible tech against artifacts. But I mean, when I'm looking at adding like a Vandal Imp into my limited deck, like that is getting towards the end of the picks for the deck. Like I'm choosing that like as number like 23 or 24 in the spellbook slots. And then between Ferryman Coin and One-Shot Wizard, yeah, you just take the One-Shot Wizard. It's again not like a super strong minion, but it is in kind of the elements that I'm favoring at the moment, and it does have a relevant, a somewhat relevant Genesis. So you do get some value out of it just by playing it, and then it leaves behind a 1-power body on the table. One of the other kind of rules or idiosyncrasies of zone drafting is that you're not allowed to look at your card pool while you are drafting the pack. So you have to just use your memory the best you can to make to inform your decisions, which can be a little difficult. I've definitely, I mean, I've done drafting both ways, and it is easier to make decisions, like make critical decisions on what to pick up sometimes if you are allowed to look at the library of cards that you have picked up previously. But I mean, right now, like we're in between pack 1 and pack 2. We are allowed to take a look at what we've drafted so far, so I'm just taking a quick peek there to set that in my mind here before we move on to pack 2. And here's pack 2. No foils. We're checking for foils. Another rule specific to sorcery is that if you pull a foil, you need to announce it to the table, and that's just so there's no hidden information. And the way it was explained to me it was to ensure that everyone at the table had access to the same information that people on other sides of the table might have access to. So like if you pull a foil, like the people near you know what that card is, but if you're on the opposite end of the table, you might not necessarily know unless it is called out. Right now, like I'm looking at like those who linger as my top end pick here, even though I'm not really in air. I'm not locked into my other elements yet, and so it's kind of hard to pass that one up. I could have potentially taken the double threshold fire site, the volcano, to double down on that selection here. I've got a ton of decent choices in this pack. I got a Buried Alive, Flame Strike, there's an Angry Mob, which is okay, and a Vesper Swarm, which is pretty good as well. Vesper Storm is pretty good. I just, like I'm not sure. I think at this point I'm just considering in my mind is like, do I want to try to pivot to air in some fashion, and what does that mean? Like, do I have to drop another color at that point then, or do I kind of stay the course here at this point with earth and fire? I have good removal options that have been served to me in both of those elements, right? Buried Alive just is the answer that you need a lot of the times. Flame Strike also very strong. So I'm looking at those two. I think I favor Buried Alive. And then I will typically favor, I think, like cards that are more explicitly hard removal versus cards that like are removal but just do say like 3 damage or something. Flame Strike is an exception because it has that AoE pattern, and it is very relevant in format. It can do a lot of work here. Zombie Hordes passed to me, and there were some other playables in this pack, but nothing near that power level on a minion. There are surprisingly few, like 4 powers and 5 power minions in the set. So on curve, getting a 4 power minion or a 5 power minion for 4 or 5 mana, pretty strong. There's a lot of decent playables as far as minions go in this pack here. There's also a pile of skulls. Typically I take the pile of skulls unless there's something just really enticing that I really can't let go. Pile of skulls has always been fairly strong for me in my limited decks. It can do a lot of work if you let it, and it can also provide some tech in terms of some answers to removing some threats out of cemetery that you may not necessarily have access to. Looks like in this case I don't end up taking that. and instead just go with an on curve 3. I think I was more concerned at that point. I must have been more concerned at that point about filling out my curve, making sure that I had a healthy curve of like 3 power minions as a base. I took the flare. Flare's very good again, like the damage that it does to like 1 damage to all adjacent units. Very strong tech, especially in a Gothic only format where there are a lot of tokens running around. If you manage to draft a deck with like a Necromancer or a token generating deck that generates a lot of skeletons, it can be difficult to deal with here. The standout on this pack that was passed to me looks like the Crawl Morlocks. I think I take that too, just because I already have 1 from the previous pack, and this would make 2. Again, it's a decent 3 power body, and I am sort of locked in to. I think at this point I'm fairly locked in to Earth and Fire, unless I need to do an emergency pivot or splash for like a 3rd element. But if I had to splash, I would have to splash pretty lightly. It is a little more difficult. It's a little more difficult in Gothic sometimes, just because like the things that you want to splash for, you really only want them to cost 1 threshold. And then at that point, like the way I think they went about game design for this set, they really kind of rethought and updated what threshold means in relation to like a card's power. And they didn't want to just give players access to very strong cards in Element with only a single threshold. They want to make sure that like if the card is good, like Flame Strike is a good example. So if the card has like a very good effect, they want you to commit more to being able to pay that threshold cost. There's not a ton of stuff in here for me. Air still looks pretty open based on that pack. Then like off frame right here, we're doing a card count really quick because the player to my left, I think they accidentally passed me the wrong pile. And this is one of the reasons why you do zone drafting, to avoid these kinds of situations and confusions. So we did a quick card count to make sure that the pool that I was supposed to get is the correct one at this point. And we're just talking to the judge off screen as well. And we're back on track. Some good playables in here for sure. Bitten is a contender. Lesser Blood Demon. Hellhounds, Flaming Skull, also a decent 2 playable, but I think I'm just doubling down on making sure that I have a very strong base of 3 power drops, and just kind of rolling with in lieu of having any sort of like high power bombs in the unique and elite slot. Threes can win games if you let them, if you have enough of them, if you keep pumping them out. It is possible to kind of control the board with those. Centrophy high on my list, just it's a playable 2, I guess. The other option was like a Blessed Village to take an Earth Site. There's not a ton in this pack for kind of what I have going on. I briefly considered the Mayor, but I didn't think I had enough mortals to even make that worth it. So the second best pick for me was going to be that Desert. Desert's still very strong if you can get them. They're a site, and they do a lot of they're a fire site, and they do a lot of work for you. I think I take the Barrow White here. Again, it's just a 2-drop for 2. Looking at kind of the dregs of what are getting passed to me here. I'm getting some decent sights here towards the end. River of Blood, Leadworks. I think I take the River of Blood just because I don't have a ton of heal effects going on, where that would be important. Cursed Desert, also pretty decent in format, especially for Gothic Limited. There are a lot of wards that can really like force you to make bad trades or lose tempo, and so having some tech to be able to deal with that is pretty good. I think I take the site here. I must take, yeah, I take Leadworks. Just Bless, not great, not worth spending a slot on. And then second to last pick there, Desert Bloom, which, you know, I actually, you know, I feel pretty good about being past Blooms like late in packs there. And then a Bitten, which is kind of a gift as your final card for the pack. Just you could do a lot worse. You could do a lot worse. You could get something that's truly unplayable. Bitten actually pretty playable. And apparently I have two. I have two Bittens in my pool at this point now. Taking a quick look at my playable minion curve here, just to make sure I'm on target. Again, I got a lot of 3s. I got that 5, the zombie horde for 5 at the top of my curve, which is nice. And then just these other things that would be nice to put in, but I think I've now pivoted pretty hard into earth and fire, and I would only splash air. I think I'd only splash air if I absolutely needed to. If I needed to, and at that point, I can't take like the best air card that I have right now in that pool, which would probably be Those Who Linger. I'd be splashing for the Dreadwing. I don't have a ton of airborne in the deck, so I kind of have to rely on combat tricks and a couple of conditional removal options there. So that is the end of pack 2, and we're waiting really quick here for pack 3. Waiting for pack 3. Last pack, pack 3. I think we're passing to the left again. Taking a peek to make sure I don't have any foils. And then you can kind of hear in the background the judge is calling out that there's a foil in a pack. This pack, I didn't see a ton of great options on the top end there, so that there is a Trial by Fire, which is nice. I probably end up taking the Trial by Fire, I believe. I don't see anything else in here that's like super enticing at the top end. I mean, Thing in the Ice, might come back to haunt you if you're playing against the stacked water deck and they're able to kind of stall and control the game and take it to late game. But my deck is a little more on curve and a little bit more kind of mid-range, I think. So I'm just going to lean into that there. Some good options in fire here for what I've been able to pull so far. Hot Wheels, a decent pick. Flare, a decent pick as well. I already have one Flare, and I think I end up doubling down and just grabbing a second Flare instead of the Hot Wheel. And I do that just because sometimes when the stars align in a draft, like this might be a trap, but I think I'm a sucker for kind of upping your consistency level in your card pool. So I think that sometimes it's better to have like 2 of a pretty good card that you want versus building out a little bit more utility. So it's just like, do I want the chance of having 2 out of 24 cards in my deck be flares, or do I want 1 flare and 1 Hot Wheel? And like the flares are pretty good, especially in format. Like I said, I need ways to pop wards. I need ways to deal with skeleton tokens. So I felt pretty good about doubling up on that situation. It doesn't look like there's a ton of options for me in the elements that I want here. I just like, at that point, I mean, there were some things in elements that I could have taken. I could have taken a Virgin in Prayer, but I opted for a Static Servant. Again, I was just thinking, like, I think that was, like, in my opinion, that was one of the better minions in the pack, and I was still considering possibly like doing a very, very light splash for air, and it only had one threshold there. Molten Moire, I think, makes the cut for me here, as based on what was in that pack. I mean, I'm always concerned about passing things like Bone Spears. So just if one of the other players in your pod happens to kind of like just pull straight fire and grab nothing but skeleton generation, grab a necromancer. The Bone Spears do a lot of work for them. There's a lot of air open in this pack, in these last couple packs here. So I don't know if people weren't really leaning that heavily into air here until the very end. Revenants, I don't like the Revenants that much in format. They're way too conditional for me. There's some good there are some solid 3 power water drops in this pack, but I'm nowhere near water, so I have to pass those. Looking at the Detonate or the Ghostfire. And honestly, like Detonate can do a lot of work for you in certain situations in the limited game. It's a little bit better if you have some more disposable tokens like skeletons and things like that. But between that and Ghostfire, I don't know. It's probably open for debate on which one to take there. There is a Fatal Strike in this pack, and I think I consider it. I think I consider it just because it can combo pretty well with some of the other. It's in elements that I've committed to, and it can combo pretty well with like some of the other pieces that I have, especially like the flares. So you get a flare out, you put a damage on something, and then you can just Fatal Strike it. But I think I kind of pivoted away from that just because like you're paying 4 for a flare, 3 for a Fatal Strike. It ended up being like a lot of mana in my mind. A late pass on Kiss of Death, which is very surprising. Like I said, it felt like air was like very open by the end there, and I think I just take the Kiss of Death just to leave myself open to splashing air in my deck. There wasn't a ton of other options in the elements that I was choosing, fire and earth in that pack. Looking at the Bloom, looking at the Open Grave, it looks like I'm leaning towards the Open Grave. Again, the Vandalimp could be a choice, I guess, just as a tech piece, but that's not particularly where you want to be. Road to Perdition, decent. You see the Vermis mysterious the artifact just wheeling the table here. It's hard to make that thing work in limited. Passing Road to Perdition, I guess instead taking that second Accursed Desert, and I think I was like in my mind again, like I was falling into that probably like, potentially a trap where you're thinking about the cards that you've already pulled in your pool and just saying like, well, like some of these are pretty good. Like Accursed Desert can be decent in format. If I don't have enough fire sites to kind of fill out my atlas, like six fire sites, having 2 of them be Accursed Deserts, especially when I'm running really light on wards, or if I'm running any wards at all, could be very decent in format. We're rapidly approaching the end here. I think at this point I might actually just take a Virgin in Prayer, but again, like I said, like I think the theme for this draft for me was I was really doubling down and on getting doubles of certain things, just on the off chance I wanted to have that consistency in the deck. Yeah, I take the Static Servant just in case, and then I think I also like was a little higher on the Static Servants as a possible splash if I was going to splash air, just because again, like I was really afraid of people drawing like the Savior or the Necromancer and having those decks with tokens and wards that it would have to deal with. So being able to just drop something and deal damage and then knock off a ward or kill a skeleton felt more powerful to me. So just getting past some late picks here, just two Grief Flyers at the end. That was my draft pool. Unfortunately, I did not film the deck building, but you more or less get an idea of what the deck was like, and we'll move on to the rounds.